Where do thoughts originate from, and do they come from a singular source or from multiple sources?
We have to say from nowhere. Okay. Science is still out, trying to figure that out. You know, they can say certain thoughts come from certain areas of the brain, but thoughts can come from anywhere. See, that's giving them a specific locus relative to the human body and the brain function. But thoughts are, you know, etheric in nature. They're not material. We live in an ocean of thought, see, potential, creative potential. So, come from anywhere and show up in the brain as part of its progression. See, from, let's say, origin to manifestation. So we are more like receivers. Okay? We're not like generating particularly. We are receiving and thus transmitting. Yeah. And we are the radio, so to speak, as human being, brain, body, and so on. Yeah. And we are also subject to spiritual influences, spirit and time, which is not particularly findable in the brain, see? As such. You know. We're in the time, we have to perceive it, because we're in the now, so we're talking about now. See? Everything shows up as the now. What's its origin? See? It's without origin. Yeah. Yeah. Really goes back to infinity, so now is infinite. Yeah.
Chapter 116 is titled, All Thinking is Simply Hearing Voices. Is the dominant voice one hears always the voice of reason? Is this the voice that one should always follow?
That's a good question. It's funny. We need madness sometimes. We need anger sometimes too. We need frustration sometimes. We need to be pushed sometimes. Yeah. For some, they need violence sometimes. That wakes them up. That's what stirs the intelligence in them. See? Whatever it takes to wake up, see, it's what it takes. Okay? Our purpose here is to wake up and start to act on progressing from what was to what needs to be in the moment. See? And this is the purpose of our being here on the earth plane. See? With our perceptions, with our bodies, with our minds, and all of our programs and limitations, what we can do and what we can't do, what we know and what we can't know. All of that is so that we can start to become more conscious of sacred purpose, to put it to work for us, as mediums, not as victims, but as mediums.
Can one be too open to hearing these voices?
Well, you'll hear voices. You're going to hear your mind. You're going to hear the voices of other peeps. You're going to accumulate 1 million different versions of voices over your lifetime. Okay? But they're not necessarily the voices you need to hear to do what you have to do. You need to, and I think the riddle of life is finding those voices. That is, finding your own voice as the voice you need to hear. To more directly become engaged in the completion of your earth mission, your purpose here. See? So you need to hear the voice of the heart, say, for yourself. Some would say the voice of the inner master, but of course we have to question what that means. The inner master is a very distinct voice. It doesn't mean just move forward, it means move up. See, and I don't mean materially up, because you can move materially up to the heights of whatever exists on the planet here and still be in the dumps. See, still be in darkness because you are concerned with just materiality, let's say. Materialism. See, so we need the inner master, and we all have it. See, we all have this sense of intelligence and space and creativity and compassion and all of the higher indications of spiritual nature in us. See, goodness, we all have that goodness, and we all want that goodness. We want the goodness for our people, our families, our children, our pets, see, our nations. We want goodness there. We want everybody to be content with a certain level of existence. So the goodness is built into us. We just need to open to where that is and try and figure out by recognition what the obstacles are and what the obstructions are to that particular process. See? So we can be in the goodness, see? And channel the goodness as much as we can and not be held back by, say, self, say, limitation.
Can blocking out certain thoughts that begin to enter one's mind help someone to progress spiritually?
I think some of these theories about filtering thought processes include the thought of maybe the practice of replacing certain thoughts with better thoughts, certain programs with higher programs, more productive programs. So that would more or less be considered in respect to the type of person and their relationship to their particular mind, to know exactly what they're capable of doing with their minds, or willing to do, in terms of a creative and conscious sacrifice, see, made in the spirit of gaining control over negative thought patterns and replacing them with productive thought patterns, see, making the person come to some sense of realizing their own goodness and their own heart worth, so they can start feeling good and relax their aggression, see, the inner struggle and such, so that they have some more peace of mind, more sense of grace and gratitude for other beings, and are able to help accordingly. So spiritual practice means coming to peace on the spot. Stop now. And working from our ability to do that relative to all of our neuroses.
Is all thought, whether positive or negative, ultimately considered to be a limitation?
No. It really depends on who we're talking about and what it is that they are in a world situation, a life situation, family situation, relational situation, or work situation. See exactly what their thought is able to do for them, for their situation, for better, or what their thought is defeating in their case. Then it's up to the individual to determine whether or not the kind of thought they have, the kind of thought they inherited, the kind of thought that they have cultivated or more or less reinforced in themselves, is producing the right results for them. So we're talking about relative value of thoughts and then the relative quality of thoughts, because there's lower thought, concrete thought, there's abstract thought, which could be considered another level of thought. It could also be lower thought, lower abstract thought. But when we think in terms of higher thought, we think in terms of wisdom thought, philosophic thought, abstract in a positive way, so that it is of no consequence to other people, though a lot of people cannot get to the level of philosophy to deal with the abstraction of the ideas, so those ideas for the most part are useless to many people who are more or less preoccupied with, out of necessity or survival needs, with concrete things. And so we have to respect that. Not everybody's going to be able to climb the heights of thought, and no one, not too many, no one, but let's say some may get to that. Some may start to, regardless of what their station of thought is, consider, well, they're ready for higher thought. They want the thought of, let's say, the great philosophers or the great wise men. Say, they want to have wisdom thought. So we're talking about the highest level of thought, which is accessible to all people at all stations of life. See? But they have to have an openness for it. And sometimes they have the conditions for it. And other times they have to be shocked into awareness as to what the higher thought is, as it is, and what the higher thought is as a means of conducting one's life, see? And finding peace and being wisdom for other peeps.
From chapter 117 you write, detachment related to freedom is that disinterestedness, which means non-interest in karmic or egoic control by or of other beings and things. How can one practice detachment when they are faced with having to deal with certain family and or social obligations?
Well, detachment is not disengagement necessarily. It's really a mental process. It's really knowing how to work with what you have to do without being victimized by it. So it's a subtle process. It's not meaning you're cultivating detachment by running away from people or separating yourself from other people. The issue is to be detached right in place, right in the midst of everything, see? And that's our capability as spirits, see? Spirit is not thought. So, since we are spirit beings, we don't have to think to know. Anything. From spirit you just know. So it depends then on what we allow to determine who we are and how much we know, and what level of reality, that means by what means are we willing to be informed or awakened or, say, operational. And we have many levels. And some person who's been at the physical level all their life might just suddenly say, gee golly, wow, I think I'm ready for another level of consciousness. I've had enough of this. And he throws the wrenches down if he has wrenches. Or he throws the baseball bat down if he has a baseball bat. Or he throws this violin down if he has a violin. I'm ready for another level of reality. Let me go find out what the next level is, because I'm tired of doing this and being owned by it.
Chapter 118 is titled Karmic Choice or Free Will. What's the difference between karmic choice and free will? Is there a difference?
Well, we can say there may be differences. Karmic choice, that could be a number of things, subject to interpretation. Does the karma choose? And if the karma chooses, that means if you can't help but do something because you were bred that way, well, obviously there's not too much free choice about it. Now, if you can do so, if you have the freedom to do something or not do it, then the issue of free choice has a little bit of reality there. Say, I'm okay with it, I'm okay without. But under the circumstances, because he showed up, because she showed up, or because this showed up, I think I'm going to go with it. But as soon as I go with it, and it seems to not be all that it was, say, puffed up to be, I'm not going to be with it very long. So there may be some free choice in that, rather than chaos or confusion. So then it's a matter of testing something and seeing if it's really worth the choice. And people can do that. Now, I don't know if that answered your question, but karma is one thing and free choice is something else. But I will add, because we're talking creatively now, a free choice may also be something of a karma. See? And so, what is a karma then? See? Is it a predisposition, a precondition? Is it a tendency, a program? And is free choice something that is without that? That's a good question. See? Is there a free choice that is like zero karma? We may have moments of that, see, in our evolution as spirit beings. We say, I don't have any karma of that sort whatsoever, but I'm going to create some now. Boom! It's possible. Or I have had every kind of karma in the whole universe and I'm bound by it, but all of a sudden I think I'm not. And I'm going to act as if I were it. But I won't call that free choice. I'm saying that all of the karma already caused me to choose that. It's a paradox. I think we're safe with the paradox. Yeah.
Can a mental breakdown or a shock to normal consciousness create an opening to deeper levels of awareness?
Of course. Mental breakdown is a great step. Not that everyone has to get there for the same results, but a mental breakdown, just by terminology, by the thought, is very promising. If your mind can break down. The mind is a limitation already. The mind is a machine. Machines break down. So, understanding that the machine is a mechanical, let's say, medium, for thought processing, patterns, awareness and information, maybe even creative operations, that breaks down, and we start to think deeply. Well, how can that be? What's left if it breaks down? Which is a good scientist's question. What's left when it all breaks down? Is there anything left, or does it break down and then that's all there is to it? But in terms of awareness, no, awareness is not limited to the mind. No. The body is awareness, is not the mind as such. The mind is consciousness of the body. The body is more light than sometimes the mind, which is untrained and is confused. So these people who are confused have to be told to sit down so that they can get in resonance with the body of light and then be healed from there. Which is not about thinking, it's not about anything, you know. You just have to stop. Okay? Come to terms with no time, space, energy, or matter. Sit and be at peace for a moment. Be at rest. If you can stand that, if you can stand being at rest, you can be informed by it. If you can be informed by it, then you can know something about it. If you can know something about it, then you can practice going deeper for yourself. See, there's a revelation written in this. See, there's a deep, profound message in this. Yeah? Stillness.
Do you think that the way that mental illness is handled in today's Western society
It's getting better. It's getting better. They're bringing more meditation in. And since people who have mental handicaps are not necessarily wanting to, in all cases educate themselves. They just want to find peace with their neuroses. They're finding that under certain conditions of spiritual practice and spiritual techniques, whether they have to do with sound or light or sitting and breathing, people are finding peace, see? Because they're not as, say, bombarded by, let's say, stimulation and keeping up. See? They're allowed to rest and be delighted in their restfulness. I don't mean going to sleep, but waking up, see, as restful. See? Coming to rest while you're waking up to your spiritual nature. Your let's say, original awakeness, your beingness, question you asked earlier, state of pure beingness, clearness, openness, conscious, creative intelligence, just seeing more clearly, and your perceptions become much sharper when they're not aggravated by an undisciplined mind or an out-of-whack ego, self-being. So there's infinite to gain. It's an infinite possibility to gain by bringing these techniques to those who are less endowed and, let's say, infirmed.
What about medications that are used for mental illness? Do you think they help or do they hinder?
Some will help certain chemistries, others will be causing aggravation in the chemistry. See? So then it's really a matter of finding the right antidote, the right medicine for the individual according to their chemistry. See? And that's one of the mysteries. What is right for this person's chemistry? What is one man's medicine is another one's poison. That's pretty much a universal law that goes back to the ancients, see, as understood, but we are relatively different. And every moment is its own universe. You keep slicing moments, you see everything has changed. In 10 moments, the whole universe has changed. Our position changes, our breathing changes, our state of consciousness and state of feelings change. See? It's very in constant flux. But awareness is constant. See? The fact that we are aware, but not aware of awareness, means we're going to be going through changes. And we can be aware of our changes, but we need to be aware of changes from the awareness of awareness, so that we are not ravaged, see, and tortured, distracted, and defeated by change.